Set my spirit free, that I might worship thee. Set my spirit free, that I might praise thy name. Let all bondage go, and let deliverance flow. Set my spirit free to worship thee. Set my spirit free, that I might worship thee. Set my spirit free, that I might praise thy name. Let all bondage go, and let deliverance flow. Set my spirit free to worship thee. Set my spirit free, that I might worship thee. Set my spirit free, that I might praise thy name. Let all bondage go, let deliverance flow. Set my spirit free, oh, worship
Considerations for school-related public health measures in the context of COVID-19. This is an annex to considerations in adjusting public health and social measures in the context of COVID-19, dated the 10th of May, 2020, issued by the World Health Organization. This is the next training and preparation document, which, if you would like a copy of this, send an email to my email address at all lowercase, RUXPEN, the number 4, lowercase letter U, the number 2, at gmail.com. Here's the background. In response to COVID-19, countries around the world have implemented several public health and social measures known as PHSM, such as movement restrictions, closure of schools and businesses, and international travel restrictions. As a local epidemiology of the disease changes, countries will adjust, an example, loosen or reinstate these measures according to the intensity of transmission. WHO has issued guidance on adjusting PHSM while managing the risk of resurgence of cases. A series of annexes has been developed to help guide countries through adjusting various public health measures in different contexts. This annex provides considerations for decision makers and educators on how or when to reopen or close schools in the context of COVID-19. These decisions have important implications for children, parents or caregivers, teachers, and other staff, communities, and society at large. This document was drafted based a review of available literature, discussion with experts, regional partners, and country examples. As a side note, I'm not going to cover this whole document because, again, you can request a copy of this document, which I have, which was included with the VBS, or Vacation Bible Schools, preparation and training procedures for hosting what is considered allowable small groups, which, again, small groups can be defined as your neighbors, friends, and immediate family members in your home or other designated area, so long social distancing is maintained, wearing masks except for snack times, and social handshaking, which is the rubbing of elbows. So, what we know about COVID-19 in children is as follows. Data from individual countries and a recent review of COVID-19 in children suggest that children are less often reported as cases than adults, and that the infection generally causes mild disease. Serious illness due to COVID-19 is seen infrequently in children, although there have been rare cases of critical illness. The role of children in transmission remains unclear, and additional data is needed, including from age-stratified sero-epidemiologic surveys. To date, there have been few educational institutions involved in COVID-19 outbreaks, but from these studies, it appears that disease transmission was primarily related to social events linked to school or university life rather than transmission within classrooms. These studies also suggest that the introduction of the virus was likely by an adult member of staff. Studies employing modeled data highlight the importance of local epidemiology in decision making, but also of not relying on school measures as standalone interventions. WHO will update this document when more information becomes available and as lessons are being learned from various countries on reopening schools. School setting and ability to maintain COVID-19 prevention and control measures. Now, while this is mainly pointed to educational institutions such as private school academies, public schools, or school for boys and those for girls, like when Amelia Clark attended hers in the United Kingdom. This can also apply to Vacation Bible School, which is usually done within a week under normal circumstances for various age groups or grade level groups. The policy, practice, and infrastructure is as follows. When schools are fully or partially open, COVID-19 prevention and control strategies should be maintained. Risk assessment could be guided by the considerations below, while recommended actions and requirements are outlined in the following section. School resources and infrastructure. Does the school have policies and resources in place to ensure appropriate hand and respiratory hygiene, distancing, and limiting crowding? Is it possible to access rooms large enough for desk spacing? Can the school's infrastructure be extended, even temporarily, to provide the space that is needed? Does the school have access to adequate materials and supplies to help prevent transmission, such as well-stocked hand washing stations? Is it possible to reduce class sizes or alternate the use of facilities daily or weekly by class groups? Does the school have access to a nurse to facilitate the care of sick children? The policies for educators and school staff is that are policies and procedures in place for the safety of all school personnel, including considerations to protect high-risk individuals, older persons, person with underlying medical conditions? Does the school have the capacity to train school staff on safe school operations? Should or could some flexible or partial teleschooling approaches be implemented or maintained? Does the school have sufficient teachers, capacity to support changes to school timetabling, bearing in mind that such changes will also affect their staff? And finally, depending on local context, is it feasible to ask teachers who are at higher risk of severe illness from COVID-19 to support distance teaching instead of in-person teaching? The age-based considerations are as follows. Will there be enough supervision for students of different ages to ensure adherence to recommended measures, including during recreational times and breaks between classes? Based on local context and cultural norms, which age groups are considered better suited or higher priority for teleschooling, and which age groups most need face-to-face instruction? Are provisions in place to ensure safety and protection in online virtual spaces? Can post-secondary institutions assess the safety and potential closure or cancellation of school-hosted venues, events, and gatherings, and offer the possibility of maintaining physical distancing, including in social situations outside the classroom? Example given, trips and get-togethers. To enable behavior change, health, education, and training sessions may need to be offered to personnel. Visual and verbal cues and reminders, example given, posters, can be provided to encourage students to maintain desired behaviors. Now, here is some recommended measures for school reopening. The following strategies and adaptations should be in place wherever possible. Again, VBS, though not open on an annual basis, is only on a seasonal weekly basis, could also apply. Hygiene and daily practices at school. The hygiene and environmental cleaning to limit exposure is educate everyone in the school about COVID-19 prevention. This includes appropriate and frequent hand hygiene, respiratory hygiene, mask use if mandated, symptoms of COVID-19, and what to do if you feel sick. Non-contact greetings should also be advised. Offer weekly updates on these as the pandemic evolves. Create a schedule for frequent hand hygiene, especially for young children, and provide sufficient alcohol-based rub or soap and clean water at school entrances and throughout the school. Schedule regular cleaning of the school environment daily, including toilets with water and soap, detergent, and disinfectant. Clean and disinfect frequently touched surfaces such as door handles, door knobs, desks, toys, supplies, light switches, door frames, play equipment, teaching aids used by children, and covers of books. Assess what can be done to limit risk of exposure or direct physical contact in physical education classes, sports, or other physical activities, and play in playgrounds, wet areas, and changing rooms. Increase frequency of cleaning in gym and sports facilities and changing rooms. Provide hand hygiene stations at entrances and exits. Establish one-way circulation of athletes through the facilities and limit the number of persons allowed in the locker room at one time. Put in place respiratory and hand hygiene and physical distancing measures in transportation, such as school buses, and tips for students on safe commute to and from school, including those using public transport. Only one child per seat and at least 1 meter apart in school buses, if possible. This may lead to a need to increase the number of school buses per school. If possible, windows of the buses should be kept open. Develop a school policy on wearing a mask or a face covering in line with national or local guidance. If a child or a school staff is sick, he or she should not come to school. Provide sufficient medical masks for those who need it, such as school nurses and children with symptoms. Screening and management of sick students, teachers, and other school staff. Enforce the policy of staying at home if unwell for students, teachers, or school staff with symptoms. If possible, connect with local organizations to provide home care support and ensure communication between home and school. You should also create a checklist for parents, students, staff to decide whether students and/or staff can go to school, and with due consideration for the local epidemiology of COVID-19. The checklist could include underlying medical conditions and vulnerabilities to protect the student and staff, recent illness or symptoms suggestive of COVID-19 to prevent spread to others, special circumstances in the home environment to tailor support as needed, and special considerations regarding school transport as needed. You should consider daily screening for body temperature and history of fever or feeling feverish in the previous 24 hours on entry into the building for all staff, students, and visitors to identify persons who are sick. Ensure students who have been in contact with a COVID-19 case stay home for 14 days. School officials should notify public health authorities in case of a positive COVID-19 case. Waive the requirement for a doctor's note to excuse absences when there is community transmission of COVID-19. Establish procedures for students or staff who have symptoms of COVID-19 or are feeling unwell in any way to be sent home or isolated from others. The communication with parents and students should be as follows. Inform parents about the measures the school is putting in place and ask for cooperation to report any cases of COVID-19 that occur in the household. If someone in a household is suspected to have COVID-19, keep the child home and inform the school. Explain to the students the reason for school-related measures, including discussing the scientific considerations and highlighting the help they can get through schools. Example given, psychosocial support. Additional school-related measures is that you should ensure that the school entry immunization checks are in place. Check vaccination status for outbreak-prone, vaccine preventable diseases, example given measles, and remind parents of the importance of ensuring their children are up to date with all eligible vaccinations. For school-based immunization programs, ensure there a plan for catch-up vaccination if needed. Boarding schools and other specialized institutions, like VBS, will need to extend these considerations to residential facilities, lecture halls, laboratories, and other learning facilities for the all-around benefit and safety of students and staff. Now, usually it's 6 feet, but in this case, physical distancing and teleschooling, physical distancing in school, is as follows. Maintain a distance of at least 1 meter between everyone present at school. Increase desk spacing at least 1 meter between desks. Stagger recesses, breaks, and lunch breaks. If difficult, one alternative is to have lunch at desk. Limit mixing of classes for school and after-school activities. For example, students in a class will stay in one classroom throughout the day while teachers move between classrooms, or classes could use different entrances if available, or establish an order for each class to enter and leave the building classroom. Consider the number of teachers, if possible, to allow for fewer students per classroom, if space is available. Advise against crowding during school pickup or daycare, and if possible, avoid pickup by older family or community members, example given, grandparents. Minimize shared break times, example in entry, in example that is alternate when and where classes take lunch. Move less outdoors or ventilate rooms as much as possible. Create awareness to ensure the students do not gather and socialize when leaving the school and in their free time. Now, teleschooling is something that was probably like streamlining as the Catholic Church does on Sundays. VBS and Vacation Bible School, unfortunately, because of the stay-at-home order, didn't get the chance to practice that. So therefore, this is my contribution to putting this out so everybody can still participate, even if it's already past that time, because again, this is pre-recorded earlier. And again, there is no rule that says VBS has to be in the summertime. So as far as teleschooling and distance learning, that would not apply, because this again is a seasonal, weekly type of schooling for Christian children. Now, there are references for you to check out, and there are some further useful resources. The acknowledgement is that this document was developed in consultation with UNICEF, IFRC, WHO regional offices. WHO continues to monitor the situation closely for any changes that may affect this interim guidance. Should any factors change, WHO will issue a further update. Otherwise, this interim guidance document will expire 2 years after the date of publication. It is copyrighted by the World Health Organization for the year 2020. Some rights are reserved. This work is available under the CC BY-NC-SA 3.0 IGO license. The WHO reference number is WHO//2019-N CO V/adjusting _PH measures /schools with a capital S /2020.1. So with this, then, the best part is that one, if let's say, for example, and I'm going to go ahead and check in here my file, Let's say you get to the first event, which is the preschool VBS streamline, as I call it, because I'm the one streamlining it. Okay, preschool, as we all know, has your preschool first year, and then you have preschool known as pre-K. Head Start sometimes will fall in the middle or at the end, depending on the children's age and circumstances. So let's say that you're going to do the preschool, pre-K, and Head Start in 1 week. Okay, the example would be then, obviously you do have the group get together for the opening services and closing services. So you should find a place, possibly somebody with a large living room, music room, or maybe you could even rent a type of place that allows like birthdays and anniversaries to take place. But again, spacing the chairs or whatever 6 feet apart. That means 6 feet on the left side, 6 feet on the right side, 6 feet in front, and 6 feet in back. And again, if it seems like you got a large amount of kids, then you may have to pre-plan to alternate. Since it's not usually an all-day thing, that means as soon as that is over for those coming in the morning, then the ones in the afternoon or evening can come in. Social handshaking means you don't actually touch anybody's hands, be it an adult or a child. You do social handshaking by holding out your elbow, and the other person responds by rubbing the tip of their elbow to yours. Since it would be silly that nobody sticks their elbow in the soup bowl or their dinner plate trying to eat off their elbow, it would be considered then not something that would be a risk. Wearing masks should be done so in such a way that the mask is not too tight to strangle your child, but also at the same time not too loose, because they're not trying to fit mom or dad's mask. It should be age appropriate and fit perfectly. Each day, it was recommended that the mask be put into a laundry hamper. Do not use the same one. Good example of this is when I work tree top. So when I do an 8-hour job, I have plenty of masks that goes for the work week. At the end of the day, I throw one in the hamper, and I still got 4 clean ones for the next 4 days. Upon entering, if you are the host, they enter your home, they should always use the hand sanitizer after washing their hands. Then when they leave, and it's the end of the day, you should clean your doorknobs, clean the toilet handle that flushes the toilet, and all areas that the child may have touched. If they had to use color pencils, you will have to use baby wipes to wipe those down as well. So anything that is touched, supplies, or anything like that must be wiped down. So if you can meet those guidelines, then you've got everything covered. That concludes the second preparation and training for Vacation Bible School.